Hi, I'm Sally Williams and welcome to another Martogg Industry Moment. And joining me today is Austin Ramage from Martogg and also Simon Van Leuven, Director of Vanden Recycling. And Simon's business focuses on creating the most value from plastic waste, which is fantastic. And we wanted to catch up with him to discuss the pending plastics export ban commencing on the 1st of July, which we all know about, and what this actually means for the industry. So hi to you both, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Sally. Good afternoon, Simon.
Good afternoon to you both as well. Thank you very much for having us on a Martogg Moment.
Oh, it's great. It's great to be chatting with you because it feels like it's ages since we've chatted.
Yeah, it's definitely been a little while, and probably like everyone, we've all got pretty busy in the last few months. So, yeah, it's nice to get together and catch up on all things plastic recycling and the pending export bans here in Australia.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to get you on for a while, Simon, and we thought that the topic that we had penciled in to talk with you about is the export ban that's coming up in July this year. And I think we just really wanted to talk around, the readiness of the industry here to cope with it, how it's going to change, some of the other things that are going on with shipping. So we'll get right into it. But I think a good place to start would be, obviously, we know a fair bit about Vanden and we know a lot about you, and I'm sure anyone who follows you on LinkedIn would know a fair bit about you as well. But if you could just, for our listeners that perhaps don't know about Vanden or know about you yourself, could you give us a bit of a background on you and your business?
Yeah, sure. Well, Vanden was founded in 2005 by my brother Damien, and he was joined not long after by his good friend John Karapetis, and basically from there, the pair of them have built a very successful plastic commodity trading business. We've got a presence in Asia, Europe, and the UK, and also here in Australia. So, the business is plastic commodities, and that's what we do. And, we kind of often say that we're privileged with the task of helping suppliers move material to the right customers, as well as ensuring customers get certainty in the feedstock that they supply. So, we're a critical link in that supply chain. And, we're pretty ambitious to try and grow that over the next few years. I'm sure the same as you guys will acknowledge, the use of recycled content's only going to increase. And we need to be there to continue to provide that certainty for the brands who want to make that transition and help them win and maintain supply of the feedstock that they need. In terms of myself, I wasn't from the plastic industry, so we grew up in country South Australia, and I was a builder before I jumped into this. So, I often say everything I've learned about plastic has been on the job, and it's been a very interesting journey for me personally.
Yeah.
I think that's the way for a lot of us, Simon, learning on the job, and there really is no substitute to getting in and touching and feeling and learning about all the different polymers as well. So yep. I think a really important aspect, Simon, as well, is that your business is not just a business based here in Australia. It's got a global footprint. So I think, is your head office in the UK, but you also have offices through Europe and Asia?
Yeah, so our headquarters is in Hong Kong. Oh, okay. And that's the base of our global finance and HR team, and the centralization of some logistics there. And then we have a business in the UK where we have a processing plant just north of London in Peterborough. And that mainly focuses on post-production material. And then we also have offices across Europe, so Finland, Turkey, Spain, the Netherlands shortly. And in all those places, we have our own people on the ground. We're expanding as a team. We're building a logistics hub in Europe to further service our customers there. So, yeah, we do have a great Vanden family spread across the world. And really that's becoming more important because of this certainty of supply. And we do have to procure material from multiple sources for brands and manufacturers, because they need to know that if there's a disruption in one market, that they've got material available to them from another.
Yeah. And Simon, how's the transition to more sustainable packaging going overseas?
Well, I think it's happening at a little bit of a faster pace. I mean, we've got the introduction of the plastic tax from, I think, the 1st of April in the UK.
Yeah.
And the value of that, I'm going to just refer to my notes quickly, but it's £200 a tonne, and it's applicable to anyone who's manufacturing or importing over 10 metric tonnes a year. So I think that's going to definitely, and it is having an impact there at the moment. And then we've got the same kind of packaging taxes being implemented through Europe, which are up to 45 cents a kilo on all packaging there. So again, that is going to help with that transition,
Right.
faster than probably what we're seeing here at the moment.
Yeah, makes a difference, huh?
Yeah, it does. I really do think it does. Yep.
You think we need it here?
I think it needs to be looked at. Yes, absolutely. And I do think we need to look at regulating the front end a little bit more, and it's not just to say, hey, we need to put a tax on packaging. It's also to protect and reward those companies who are making that investment now for the switch. So if you're a company and you've made that switch already to 30 to 50%, then you should have an advantage over those who are either importing or lagging in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And they need to feel, brands want to feel, or businesses want to feel confident as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
They need to know that. They're reassured. Simon, of course, one of the topics we really wanted to cover today was the pending export bans. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I guess if we wind the clock back to last year to July 1st, and that was really the implementation of phase one of the new regulations, and really that first step was to try and clean up from the mess that we used to have, where people were allowed to just export whatever they wanted, mixed plastics, and they'd go somewhere and further process. And so really phase one was about ensuring that it was only single polymers in those bales. There was a process to go through. You must have a license. The government would regulate it by ensuring that you were licensed to the countries that you're allowed to send it to, and the customers that you were sending it to were actually set up to process the material that you said that they could process. And they implemented a system where, if you were shipping it out of the country, you had to apply online and get a permit number before you're allowed to export it. So that was phase one, and I think that has gone very, very successfully. Obviously, a little bit of disruption, but I think it did clean up some of the cowboys and basically trading with a laptop out of the back of their car, and really made a big impact on who was allowed to move those materials, which is the right move. And now we move into phase two, which is some stricter requirements again. So from July 1st, you're not allowed to export any bales from Australia. It must be further processed. And the contamination requirements and the licensing requirements get a little bit stricter as well. So this phase two ban is from July 1st this year. It will have a pretty big impact across the industry. Make no doubt about it, there will be a period of time where there may even be some very difficult challenges that the industry will face as we transition to the phase two regulations. But I think the way we've got to look at this is that even if we're not quite ready as an industry, if we don't keep the pressure on to transition, nothing changes. So, there's two sides to this, and I think so long as the industry is realistic about it and we're able to manage expectations around that, then, phase two will be successful, but it will take some time.
And how long do you think? Have you sort of put a timeline in place yourself as a business?
Well, for us, because we've traded in not only bales but flake and resin and regrinds for that matter as well for a long period of time. For us, it just means we won't export any bales anymore. They've got to be further processed, and they will just get converted to flake or resin. Probably the tricky area is LDPE, and I think that's going to be problematic. But if we just say look at the bottles, containers, rigid area, I think over time we'll kind of be ready for that. I think, PET bottles that everyone's familiar with, I think, we're not far off being ready for that. But some of the other HDPE and polypropylene rigid products, they're coming along. But even for the processing that's slated to go, not going to be up and running for 12 months, and then it's still going to be further than that before they're probably operating at full capacity. So realistically, I think we've got to be realistic and say we could have bumpy waters for the capacity going in now if it's already on the water or already being installed. Before that's operating at full capacity, it could be 12, 18 months at least.
Yeah, I think just what you touched on before around not undermining those that have already made the shift from a recycled content in packaging perspective, but I think also, I think you touched on it as well, but from a processing capacity perspective, it's really important because a lot of businesses have made the move. And I think it's really important that we do keep stepping in that direction, and that it doesn't undermine those investments that have been made. But just on that as well, Simon, I think, a lot of people would question why do we need the export bans? But it's not just as simple as the export ban themselves. There's issues now with shipping lines not carrying plastic waste as well. And I think the other part of it, which a lot of people may not understand, is whilst, for a product that's flaked or washed, there's demand for it, or compounded, there's demand for it. But a lot of these countries don't want our mixed plastic waste anymore either. So could you talk a little bit more about the shipping situation as well?
Yeah, so so what we've seen, April this year, I think it was early April, CMA in France announced that they are no longer going to ship any waste plastic under the HS code 3195. And as it stands today, by the Australian regulation, this may or may not change, even flakes have to be shipped under HS code 3195. So, CMA made this decision because they felt under the Basel rules that even though they weren't the owner of the cargo, if they were going to ship it, they were still responsible and liable to be prosecuted if that material ended up in the wrong place. Now, this has gone a step further as recently as the last 24 hours, that if CMA own a vessel, but it's being chartered by another shipping line and or it's a co-sharing vessel service arrangement, CMA are also saying, okay, your cargo might be in a Hapag Lloyd container, but it's on our vessel and it's 3195, you are no longer allowed to ship it. So there are other complications that will go along with this regulation. Some of them haven't been thought through. Some of them, I think we could have got the messaging a little better, because at the end of the day, we won't use all of this material here in Australia just yet. So we do still need to send some of it to overseas markets and overseas manufacturers. Obviously, we all want to use it here, but we've got to transition to that. So, CMA made this decision. And quite often the case that we see across these things is once one shipping line makes a decision, the others will file in behind them. And we hope that they understand that, the new regulation is all about products. It's not really, they're flakes, but it's material that's going to be, tipped straight into an extruder and be able to be used straight away. So there are those complications around the shipping of plastic waste if it's still defined under that particular HS code.
Yeah, and Simon, you mentioned soft plastics before, and I do share your I share your point of view on that, because I think that one will be particularly challenging. I think just because soft plastics inherently are challenging because of the different polymers that are used in soft plastics from a post-consumer perspective. But I think one of the big issues that we're going to face is having enough applications to consume the product once it's converted. So, I think as far as the food packaging industry goes, for the products that are manufactured locally, I think that things like APCO targets for 2025, and I think also just consumer sentiment towards using recycled content is going to push that a long way. But what are your thoughts on how we push industrial products where it's a price, it's a price competition, where perhaps that sustainability marketing piece doesn't go as far as it does with food packaging? What's your perspective on driving, more applications for the product being equally important as the capacity to convert it?
Yeah, well, I think that's where some focus needs to go now. Like, we've had a very big focus on consumer products. And you know, like we said at the start, you know, the uptake in Australia is a little bit slower than perhaps what we're seeing elsewhere. But it does need to move more into post-industrial, into industrial products. You know, and with the LDPE film, for example, you know, we obviously don't have enough capacity here in Australia to process all that LDPE film back into resin. You know, there's a few realities to that. There's the commercial reality that up until now it's been more price competitive to do that in Asia than it is here in Australia. So it hasn't been worth making that investment. We've seen really high bale prices from Asia and even through parts of Europe actually for LDPE film. So you know, that's the first thing to understand, I guess, from that perspective. And then you know, I guess we just don't have the processing capacity to wash and turn all that film into resin here in Australia yet. So we do face that. Reality is we probably, it's probably the one area where the government needs to put some exemptions in place for a short period of time. And again, I'll prerequisite that with, it's no point, if you're going to have an exemption, you need to make it a short period of time to keep the pressure on, and also so you don't undermine anyone making that investment on the infrastructure, because I'm making some big investments there and they should be supported. And then obviously the next step is we've got to get that into Australian-made product, and there's got to be some kind of incentive for that, and that's where we need to keep pushing you know, pushing the barrow, I guess, is ensuring that those materials are going into new products.
Yeah, and that the consumer then understands the importance and value in buying recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. You know, so government's got to get in on that and just keep driving that.
Yeah, I think it's education around. It's a lot more than just the food packaging space. You know, you said before, Simon, and it's true, we import so much product into Australia, or even just the packaging that's on the product that we import into Australia, you know, which adds up to be, you know, tens of thousands of tons. You know, it's a lot of material. So, you know, it's what we do with that. What do we turn that into? That's equally important. And I think that's where some of those industrial products, or a focus on locally made industrial products, is where we need to go. That's why I think that like the Remade in Australia campaign, I think that's really important, because it's bringing awareness to products that are made, you know, that are made using recycled content, you know, here in Australia.
Yeah, and the challenges that some of the you know, some of the companies that are making products from recycled face at the moment, you know, I know a few companies that are trying to supply their products into the civil industry. And there is a lot of pushback, and there is a lot of barriers being put up, you know, from engineers and things like that, who have a traditional view that recycled is not good, or it's not as good as a virgin product. And we've got to continue to tear them. And even some of them that I speak to, even when they're against those barriers, there's still resistance, and that is about education, and that is about ensuring we've got the message right. And you know, I often talk about it, that we've got to perhaps also, you know, be talking about these polymers from a performance perspective. And you know, perhaps it's not about recycled, it's about comparing the performance of this polymer to that polymer, and are they the same? Well, yes, they are, and make sure that we're having that conversation as well.
Yeah, there's definitely I think there's definitely that perception that recycled isn't as good as virgin from a plastics perspective. And when you look at you know, physical property testing, you know, a lot of the time you see very little, if any, drop off at all. And the other thing as well is a lot of additives, or you know, additives that are used in compounding, things like glass reinforcement. You know, from a physical properties perspective, in polypropylene, for example, it does equally, you know, as much in recycled material as it does in virgin. So there's lots of opportunities for, you know, for improving physical properties as well, and sort of trying to break down some of those barriers or concerns that people have around using recycled material. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, it's clear that there's education required right across the board there. But we've, like you said, Simon, we've just got to keep moving. We've just got to keep on it, and keep consistent and persistent and patient. I think it's going to require a bit of that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and having a chat about it, Simon. It's certainly there's big changes coming in the next, well, what is it, the next month and a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely big change happening in the next few months, and there'll be disruption, but disruption can be a good thing. And amongst that disruption, there'll be some fantastic opportunities for Australian companies to really, put themselves on the map as a manufacturer, a compounder, a processor. And, we already do have a great reputation for supplying the world with high quality material. And I think that'll continue. And, you guys should be congratulated too for the investments you're making in this area. And, that's fantastic.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to be proud of. I'm going to end it up there. Thank you so much, Austin, again, and Simon. Great to chat with you. And if anybody's watching and has any questions that you'd like to ask either Austin or Simon, please do put them in the comments below, and I'm sure the guys will get back to you with some answers shortly. But thanks again for listening. I'm Sally Williams, and we'll see you in the next Martogg Industry Moment.